Now, of course, we can't put pipe into a grid, so we have to add some members here so that we actually do have a steel structure. But now, of course, it's important. There will be certain specifications on how this steel structure needs to be built. So let's take a look at that. Let's go into our Structure tab, and if we go into our settings here, if you give that a little click right there, you'll see where we have member settings. When you do that, you'll see that you have some shape standards that you can choose from. Some shape types, you can use that filter out there to filter out some of the shape types. Just go ahead and we'll either, you can filter out by that. You could also filter out by size, but we're going to be looking for W shapes, so we'll go ahead and do that. And I'm going to be looking for some with 8 inches. So we'll go ahead and filter out that way as well. You can pick your material standards. You can pick the material code that you want. You can pick the angle that you want to place this on. And if you need to flip it or align it, if you need to have an offset, this is where you could build on an offset, whether the offset be vertical or be horizontal. Now you're going to see some points in here, and this is actually, remember, we're going to be lining this up on our grid. So wherever you put this point, that's where the line is going to be on the grid. So if you wanted to go straight through, have it in the middle. But if you want to be putting it on the edge or one of these corners, then you may do it that way as well. So that's what we're going to use these grips for right here. All right, let's go ahead and we'll close this box out so we can see about actually putting some members on. Now that we've chosen a member, or at least a setting for a member, drawing a member is as simple as clicking on the member tool here and then just clicking a start point and then dragging it out. And then if you do that, then you can see you do actually have a member drawn out. Now another method of putting a member in is simply just to draw an AutoCAD line where you need the line using your grips to assist you, or direct entry, whatever you prefer, and then actually clicking on that way. So let's go ahead and draw an AutoCAD line. All we have to do is, if you feel it necessary to switch workspaces, you might, but just an L will get you an AutoCAD line. And then we'll just go ahead out here and we can type it in. We can say that we want this to be 15 feet, and then we can tab over to an angle of 0. And so now we have a line that is at the specifications we just did. We can go ahead to our member here, and then we can click on the endpoints here. Why don't we use our grips to help us find that endpoint? And let's make sure we have a grip turned on for this one as well. And now you have another member drawn. So you can also choose it by the line itself. Let's go ahead and choose us another line. And we'll just specify some point out there. And let's go ahead, we'll make this another 15-foot line, and we'll give it at another 0 angle. We'll accept that. And now let's go to our members again, and let's put this one in by line, and all we have to do is pick the line that we want. And once we do that, that also will draw a steel member for you. Okay, let's add some steel to this grid that we created. And what we're going to do is we're going to double check our steel settings to make sure it's set on the type of steel that we want here. And we'll go ahead. We got a pretty good sized piece of steel going right there. And I do want my model line to be kind of an outside perimeter. So I will use that as my point of insertion, that little corner right there. Let's go ahead and go along with that. And let's go to here where we can input a member. And of course, I like to use my endpoints as a guide. So we'll go ahead and we'll click an endpoint here. And we'll click an endpoint there. And enter that. And as you can see, we have a piece of steel put on there. All right, so let's just say we were changing it. No, that's not exactly the one we want. Go ahead, select that, give it a right click. Go to Edit Structure. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit smaller. I'm going to go down to maybe this 12. And let's select that. And now if you zoom in on here, you're going to see that's not exactly fitting the grid. But there's a reason for that because the grid is not synced with the steel. The grid is just a simple AutoCAD line and it's meant to be used as a guide, but no big deal. If you have to edit it, all you have to do is move it back in place. So what we'll do is to move it, I like to have it kind of in a symbol model so that I can use the AutoCAD functions a little bit easier. And I'll just go ahead and select this and use a regular AutoCAD move. And I'm going to move it by base point. So I'm going to go ahead and get me an end point just for some precision here. And then I'm going to look for the other end point of here because remember this is an AutoCAD line anyway. And we'll snap that in just like that. Okay, so now we have that end point there. So while we're doing this, let's go ahead and do a copy here. We can copy this over. Let's just say that we're using the same piece of steel on the other side. So let's go ahead and we'll do a copy selection. And this time we'll make our base point, still use that end point, but let's make our base point right there so that we can go all the way to the other side of our grid here. We'll go to this corner that says level 4. Make sure we grab our endpoint. And when we have the endpoint, we can snap that in and say enter. So now we have a piece of steel on either end. Now, as we've mentioned before, you can also perform many of your regular AutoCAD commands here. So let's just say that we want to copy down some of this steel beam, which is going to be in kind of a predictable pattern. Why don't we go ahead and use our array tool? Now, once again, you can switch over to other palettes or panels or whatever if you need to, but it's just as easy if you can remember those commands to just go ahead and type them in the command line and they'll bring them up for you. So if I go ahead and I say that these are the pieces that I want to array, making sure not to actually pick my grid, because remember those are AutoCAD functions, AutoCAD objects as well. And I'll go ahead and pick these two. And when I hit enter, or the next after I pick, I'm going to let them know that I want it as a rectangular path. And remember, you are going to get this suggested path. Don't freak out over this because it's merely just a suggestion here. You're going to have kind of a customized deal. What we only want, we don't want any real columns or rows. We actually just want to copy this one column down. And we want to copy one row. We don't want multiple rows of it either. But we do want to put this on 3 different levels. And if you remember when we spaced out our grid, we did those levels 15 feet between each other. Now, if we only put 15 feet, it's going to go 15 feet up because that's going to, you notice that's the direction the arrow is going. So let's enter in a negative 15 feet, and then that'll give us the vector going down rather than straight up. And after we hit enter there, you'll see that you have these steel members placed perfectly on the grid. If there's any others that you want to copy or anything, you can still do that. Of course, remember, if you do want to copy from the array, you'll probably have to explode the array first if you want to treat that as an individual piece. So that's just to show you some of the simple things that you can do with adding members into your grid on the structure section.